Every day, you wake up with a choice. A choice between the version of you that dreams and the version that feels. One wants to grow, evolve, and step into something greater. The other wants to stay safe, comfortable, and familiar. This inner conflict between emotion and intention is where most people lose themselves. They don't even realize it's happening. They mistake their moods for truth, their feelings for reality, and their emotional resistance for intuition. But the truth is, your emotions are often just echoes of your past, trying to drag you back into who you were, not who you're becoming. When you set a plan, you're making a conscious decision, an act of creation. You're defining a future that does not yet exist, something beyond what your body and brain currently know. But the moment you start walking toward that future, your subconscious mind panics. It doesn't care about dreams or purpose. It only cares about familiarity and survival. So when you try to change, it triggers old emotional patterns, doubt, fear, fatigue, procrastination, anything to keep you within the bounds of what's known. That's why following your plan feels hard. You're not just fighting laziness. You're fighting your biology. The human brain is designed to conserve energy. It runs on patterns, habits, and emotional memories. If, for years, you've responded to stress with avoidance, your brain learns that avoidance equals safety. If you've used distraction to numb discomfort, your brain rewards that behavior by releasing chemicals that make you feel momentarily better. Over time, your emotions become conditioned responses to specific triggers. You feel unmotivated not because your plan lacks meaning, but because your brain associates effort with uncertainty. And uncertainty is something the brain equates with danger. But when you become aware of this, something powerful begins to shift. You start to see that your moods are not commands, they're signals. They're the mind's way of saying, you're stepping into unfamiliar territory. Instead of obeying those moods, you can begin to observe them. You can recognize that the discomfort of following your plan is not punishment, it's proof of transformation. Every time you resist the pull of an old emotion, you're rewiring your mind to operate from intention instead of instinct. Think about the last time you felt inspired to start something new. Maybe you said you'd wake up early, work out, meditate, or build a business. That moment of decision felt powerful, didn't it? You could see the future clearly. But then the next morning came. You felt tired. Maybe you told yourself, I'll start tomorrow. That's not because your plan stopped mattering overnight, it's because your emotions overpowered your decision. The brain pulled you back to comfort. You surrendered to the mood instead of honoring the plan. And when that happens repeatedly, it becomes a cycle of self-sabotage disguised as self-care. What if you could break that cycle? What if instead of asking yourself, how do I feel today? You started asking, what did I promise myself I would do? The shift may sound small, but it changes everything. It moves you from being a reactor to being a creator. Because when you act on intention rather than emotion, you tell your brain, this new version of me is real. Over time, your brain begins to believe it. Your emotions start aligning with your vision instead of resisting it. Following your plan is not about suppressing emotion. It's about mastering it. Emotions are data. They tell you what's happening within you. But they are not directives. They don't have to dictate your behavior. When you feel resistance, it means you're expanding your internal boundaries. When you feel unmotivated, it means your body is still catching up to the frequency of your new identity. And when you follow through despite those feelings, you prove to yourself that your will is stronger than your wiring. It's in those exact moments when your mood screams no, but your plan says yes, that true transformation happens. That's where you begin to separate your old self from your new one. Your old self is driven by mood, by comfort, by temporary emotion. Your new self is guided by vision, by commitment, by purpose. And each time you choose the plan over the mood, you strengthen the bridge between who you are and who you want to be. Most people think success is about motivation. It's not. Motivation is a feeling. It rises and falls like a tide. Intention is a decision. It anchors you in direction even when the tide is low. Those who succeed aren't necessarily the ones who feel ready, they're the ones who act, regardless of readiness. They've trained their minds to obey purpose, not impulse. Your emotions will always try to negotiate with you. They'll tell you that it's okay to rest a little longer, to start tomorrow, to take it easy, because you've earned it. But your future doesn't respond to negotiation, it responds to consistency. Your destiny listens to what you repeatedly do, not what you occasionally feel. The person you want to become is waiting on the other side of your emotional resistance. But to meet them, you must stop letting feelings run the show. You must begin to lead your emotions instead of following them. Each time you choose your plan over your mood, you reprogram your brain. You teach it that uncertainty isn't danger's growth. You teach your nervous system that effort doesn't equal pain, it equals power. And soon, the emotions that once held you back will begin to work for you, not against you. You'll start to feel motivated by the very habits that used to intimidate you. That's the moment when emotion and intention finally align. That's when you stop being pulled backward by moods and start being propelled forward. By purpose, consistency isn't just a trait of successful people, it's a neurological evolution. Every time you follow your plan despite your emotions, you're not just building discipline, you're physically rewiring your brain. The mind and body are in constant communication, and every repeated action creates a signal that shapes who you become. The scientific truth is that your brain learns through repetition. It doesn't respond to what you think about once in a while. It transforms through what you do consistently, even when you don't feel like it. When you choose to follow your plan instead of your mood, you engage in what neuroscientists call neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire itself based on experience. Each decision to take action, no matter how small, sends an electrical signal through your neural pathways. The more often you repeat that action, the stronger that signal becomes. Over time, these pathways become default routes, forming new patterns of behavior that require less effort to maintain. This is how new habits are born, not through motivation, but through repetition. The problem is, most people give up before the rewiring process is complete. They expect results before the brain has had time to adapt. And when they don't see immediate changes, they let their emotions convince them it's not working. But if you understood what's happening inside your brain, you would never quit early. Each moment of resistance, each time you choose your plan over your mood, you're teaching your brain to prefer progress over comfort. The discomfort you feel when you push through is not a sign of failure. It's evidence that you're old. Neural connections are weakening while new ones are forming. It's your identity in transition. And that's why consistency matters more than intensity. You don't have to make massive changes overnight. You just need to send your brain the same clear message again and again until it starts believing it. When you commit to consistency, you're literally creating a new version of yourself on a cellular level. Your thoughts generate electrical impulses. Your emotions produce chemical responses. And your actions trigger genetic expressions that either strengthen or weaken certain neural networks. If your daily choices align with your plan, your biology adapts to support that alignment. Your body begins to crave structure instead of chaos, focus instead of distraction, and purpose instead of pleasure. But this process only begins when you stop allowing moods to interrupt your momentum. Think of your brain like a field of soil. Every action you take is a seed. The more consistently you plant and water the same seed, the stronger the roots grow beneath the surface. At first, you see nothing. The soil looks unchanged and you might feel like your effort is wasted. But underground, the roots are expanding, creating a foundation. Then one day, that seed breaks through the surface. Suddenly, the progress that seemed invisible becomes undeniable. That's how growth works, slowly, invisibly, until it becomes unstoppable. The same applies to your habits. Consistency is the watering of your goals, and the brain's neuroplasticity is the soil that responds to your effort. Inconsistency, on the other hand, is mental sabotage. Every time you break your plan to satisfy a mood, you reinforce the old neural connections tied to procrastination, distraction, and instant gratification. The brain remembers the relief that comes from avoiding discomfort, and it starts craving that relief more than the results. That's why it feels easier to stay the same than to change. But when you become aware of this process, you can use it to your advantage. You can intentionally create new emotional rewards around consistency, like pride, clarity, and self-respect. So your brain begins to associate following the plan with pleasure instead of pain. The truth is, your brain doesn't care about your goals. It cares about patterns. It will continue reinforcing whatever you repeat, whether it's progress or stagnation. So the question becomes, what are you repeatedly teaching your brain to believe about you? Emotional detachment is not about becoming cold, indifferent, or disconnected from life. It's about learning to observe your emotions without letting them dictate your actions. It's the space between how you feel and what you do. When you follow your plan, you are practicing the art of presence, choosing to act from a place of awareness rather than reactivity. In this state, your emotions don't disappear. They simply lose their power to control you. Presence transforms emotion into information, and detachment transforms that information into wisdom. The truth is, most people live entirely at the mercy of their moods. They wake up in a certain emotional state and allow that to define their day. If they feel inspired, they move forward. If they feel tired, they retreat. If they feel discouraged, they stop. Their emotional state becomes the steering wheel of their life, constantly jerking them left and right. But your plant, the structure you've created with intention, was not built to be steered by emotion. It was built to be guided by purpose. Emotional detachment allows you to stay on that course even when the waves of emotion try to push you off balance. Presence is the key. When you become fully present, you begin to see your emotions as passing, whether not permanent reality. You realize that a mood is simply energy in motion, a biological response to thought, memory, or environment. It's not a prophecy. The feeling of doubt, fear, or resistance doesn't mean something is wrong. It means something is changing. But because the brain is wired for survival, it interprets change as danger and sends emotional alarms throughout your body to pull you back to the familiar. If you're unaware of this, you'll interpret those alarms as truth and retreat to safety. But if you're present, you'll recognize them for what they are: old patterns trying to preserve themselves. When you act from presence, you rise above your emotions. You stop saying, "I feel unmotivated, so I won't act." And you start saying, "I notice I feel unmotivated, but I'll act anyway." That simple shift in awareness is where power begins. You become the observer, not the participant in your emotional drama. You create a gap between stimulus and response, and in that gap lies your freedom to choose differently. This is emotional detachment, not suppression, not denial, but mastery. Emotions are powerful teachers, but they were never meant to be masters. Every emotion carries data about what you value, what you fear, or what you need to release. When you detach, you can study your emotions with curiosity instead of judgment. You begin to ask, what is this emotion trying to show me? Rather than, why am I feeling this way again? You stop resisting what you feel and start understanding it. And the moment you understand it, you transcend it. When you follow your plan, there will be days when your emotions scream louder than your purpose. Days when your body feels heavy and your thoughts whisper, maybe not today. But that's the exact moment presence is needed most. Because presence brings you back to the now, the only moment where real action exists. The past tries to guilt you. The future tries to overwhelm you. But the present gives you clarity. It reminds you that you don't need to feel ready to take one step. You just need to be here, aware, and willing. Emotional detachment also means releasing your addiction to outcomes. You stop measuring your worth by how things look or how fast they happen. You focus instead on who you are becoming in the process. When you are fully present in your plan, your actions become the reward. The act of showing up, even when you don't feel like it, becomes evidence of your transformation. You begin to feel proud not because of results, but because you are no longer a prisoner of your moods. That pride, that internal stability, creates a deeper emotional balance that no external circumstance can shake. Presence also quiets the noise of comparison. When you're emotionally reactive, you tend to look outside yourself for validation or motivation. You compare your journey to others, and when you feel behind, you spiral into self-doubt. But when you're present, you realize that your journey has its own rhythm. You see that your emotions are simply responses to your focus, and by changing your focus, you can change your internal state. You stop asking, "Why am I not there yet?" and start asking, "What can I do now to move closer to my vision?" That shift brings peace, and peace creates power. There's a deep stillness that comes when you stop fighting your emotions and start observing them. It's not the absence of feeling, it's the mastery of response. You begin to act from intention, not impulse. You wake up and feel the same emotions you always have, but they no longer control your decisions. You feel fear, yet you still move forward. You feel doubt, yet you still show up. You feel unmotivated, yet you still do the work. That is emotional detachment in action, the discipline to honor your plan even when your emotions beg you not to. This detachment does not mean you lose passion. It means you channel it. You start to use your emotions as fuel instead of friction. The energy that once fueled procrastination becomes the energy that drives persistence. The emotion that once caused paralysis becomes the signal that progress is happening. You begin to understand that following your plan isn't about denying how you feel. It's about refusing to be defined by it. Presence teaches you that emotions are just visitors. Your plan is the home you keep returning to, no matter how loud the knocking gets. When you live in this state, your power no longer depends on the conditions of your day. It comes from within, from the steady rhythm of awareness and intention. You no longer chase balance, you embody it. You no longer wait for the right mood, you create the right energy by choosing the right action. Emotional detachment and presence turn chaos into clarity, and that clarity allows your plan to become the blueprint of your higher self. Reprogramming yourself is not about becoming someone else. It's about returning to the truest version of who you were meant to be before your fears, failures, and emotional patterns took control. It's about upgrading your internal system so that following your plan no longer feels like a struggle, it becomes natural. It's automatic and effortless. The human brain is designed to adapt to whatever environment it's repeatedly exposed to. And that includes the environment of your thoughts, your habits, and your emotional states. Every time you choose your plan over your mood, you send a message to your subconscious mind. This is who I am now. That message begins to reprogram not only your mind, but also your body, your energy, and your entire sense of identity. In the beginning, this process feels like a battle. You are dismantling old patterns that have ruled you for years. You're breaking emotional addictions to comfort, to procrastination, to self-doubt, to the identity of the old you. The body resists because it has memorized those emotional states. It's comfortable being anxious, lazy, or uncertain because those feelings are familiar. The body doesn't like the unknown, even if the unknown holds your highest potential. But when you persist through that resistance and follow your plan consistently, you start teaching your body a new way of being. You are no longer living from the memory of your past, but from the blueprint of your future. Every thought you think and every action you take carries energy, and that energy reinforces your identity. If your thoughts are rooted in limitation, "I can't do this. I'll start tomorrow. I'm not good enough." Your body begins to believe it. It produces chemicals that align with that belief, keeping you trapped in a feedback loop of stagnation. But when you act in alignment with your plan, even when you don't feel like it, you disrupt that loop. You send your body a new chemical message, a signal of confidence, purpose, and determination. The more you repeat this, the more your body learns that this is the new normal. Your biology begins to match your vision. The reprogramming of self is not a mental concept, it's a physiological transformation. The neurons in your brain literally start wiring together in new patterns. Old emotional memories that once dictated your moods begin to lose their grip because you're no longer feeding them with attention or repetition. Your nervous system learns that peace is safe, focus is natural, and commitment feels good. This is how identity change happens, not through wishful thinking, but through consistent, intentional action that teaches your body to trust your plan more than your emotions. Imagine you've spent years thinking of yourself as inconsistent, unmotivated, or undisciplined. That self-image has been coded deep into your subconscious mind. When you try to change, your brain immediately searches for evidence that supports your old identity. It whispers, "See, you failed before. why try again? But every time you choose your plan, instead of surrendering to that voice, you create new evidence. You begin to shift from the story of who you were to the embodiment of who you're becoming. The reprogramming begins when your actions start to align more consistently with your future self than your past self. Over time, something extraordinary happens. The same behaviors that once required effort start to feel natural. Waking up early, staying focused, making progress. These actions no longer feel forced because they've become part of your identity. You no longer have to fight to stay consistent because you are consistency. You no longer have to force discipline because you are discipline. Your brain has built new neural pathways that support your plan effortlessly. The struggle that once felt overwhelming fades, not because life gets easier,